All right, let's talk about one of the most, well, dreaded moments for anyone who teaches. You ask this fantastic question, you're so proud of it, and you're met with crickets. Just total silence. Today, we're going to break down a powerful two-part technique that can flip that silence into a room that's just buzzing with engagement. Let's get into it.
You know the feeling, right? You pose this great, thought-provoking question. You look out at everyone and just blank stares. Maybe you get one or two of the usual hands going up, but you just know that most of the room has already mentally checked out. It's so frustrating, and it leaves the majority of your students just sitting there as passive observers.
So what's the alternative here? Well, it's about shifting the entire culture of the room. We're moving away from relying on volunteers, where, let's be honest, a handful of students do all the talking, to a culture of cold calling. The real difference, as you can see, is the expectation. It goes from you can participate if you want to everyone is expected to think because you will be asked to participate. It's a game changer.
So how do we actually make that shift happen? It all boils down to a simple, but incredibly effective, two-part technique. When you get this right, this approach can completely reshape the dynamics of your classroom.
Okay, so part one is the cold call itself. It's exactly what it sounds like. Instead of waiting for hands, the teacher calmly and systematically chooses who's going to answer. The moment you start doing this, every single student gets the message, I need to be ready. It signals that their voice isn't just welcome, it's an expected and valued part of the conversation.
Now here's the magic ingredient, the part that makes this whole system feel safe instead of scary. No opt-out. This is the safety net. If a student is called on and they just don't know the answer, they're not left hanging out to dry. No, they are supported and guided until they can confidently and successfully say the right answer themselves. It's basically a guarantee of success for everyone.
So why does this combo work so well? Well, for one, it skyrockets accountability because everyone knows their turn might be coming. It also just completely dismantles that opt-out culture where students can hide in the back. But here's the really interesting part. Instead of creating a ton of anxiety, it actually makes the classroom climate calmer and more predictable because everyone knows the routine and feels safe inside of it.
Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty how. This isn't some complex educational theory. It's a practical, everyday routine. We're going to break down the exact steps to put this into practice smoothly. Check out this 5-step loop. It's super simple. First, you ask your question to the whole room. Then, and this is probably the most important and hardest part, you pause. You just let that silence hang there for a few seconds so everyone has time to think. Only after that thinking time do you name the student. From there, you either get the answer, or if they're stuck, you move right into step 4 and provide that support. And notice that last step. You always circle back so the original student is the one who gets to say the right answer. That's the win. To make this really concrete, here's a script you can literally just steal and use tomorrow. You frame it clearly. Everyone thinks. You can even do a little quiet countdown to give the thinking time some structure. 3, 2, 1. And then you just calmly name the student. Jamie, what's your answer? See how transparent and low stakes that feels?
But what happens when Jamie says, I don't know? This is where people get nervous, right? But this is also where the technique shows its real strength. It's not about creating pressure. It's about pulling out your supportive, no opt-out toolkit to build a ladder so every student can reach the answer. And here it is, your support toolkit. You've got a bunch of options here. You could try rephrasing the question, maybe make it a little simpler. You could offer a couple of multiple choice options to lower the barrier. A fantastic one is to provide a sentence stem. Something like, the character was upset because, just to get them started. And of course there's the classic phone a friend, or even just saying, no problem, I'll come back to you, which gives them a bit more time to process. Let's see that phone a friend in action, because the sequence here is key. The tone is everything. That's okay, listen carefully. You ask another student, Ava, to help out. But you don't stop there. You immediately loop back to the original student. Jamie, can you say what Ava just said? You get them to repeat that key piece, and then you guide them to give the full successful answer themselves. Jamie gets the win. That's huge.
Now, if you really want to master this, it's just as important to know what not to do. So let's quickly run through 3 common pitfalls that can totally undermine this whole technique if you're not careful.
First big one, avoid naming the student before you ask the question. The moment you say, Jamie, what is the capital of Australia, every other brain in that room that doesn't belong to Jamie just shuts off.
Why should they think about it? The question isn't for them. You've just defeated your own goal of whole class engagement.
Second, and this is a tough one for a lot of us, you have to fight the urge to rescue a student too quickly. When they hesitate, that silence isn't failure. That silence is the sound of a brain working. It's productive struggle. If you jump in right away with the answer, you're actually stealing that learning opportunity right from under their nose. You've got to learn to love that pause.
And finally, this is probably the most important one of all. Avoid a punitive or gotcha tone. This technique is all about building a supportive, predictable culture. If your tone sounds like you're trying to catch someone not paying attention, you're just going to create fear and anxiety, not confidence. You have to keep it calm, matter-of-fact, and positive.
So there you have it, a really clear, supportive structure to help you move from a classroom of a few volunteers to a community where everyone thinks and everyone succeeds. It really just leaves one last question for you to think about. How will you ensure every single voice is heard?